So I've started playing Pokemon Legends ZA, and I couldn't wait to share some initial thoughts with you. Fair warning, I'm only a few hours in, so these takes might evolve as I keep playing, but there's already some good stuff worth talking about. Quick context, I'm a software engineer who spends my days designing user interfaces, which doesn't make me a game designer, but it does mean I look at games through a slightly different lens than most players. I notice when the information hierarchy feels off, or when interaction patterns don't quite click. Whether that makes my opinions more valid or just more annoying is up to you to decide. Now, I have a full-time job, so my game time is limited. That means pacing and respect for my time are huge factors in whether I stay engaged with the game. I can't afford to waste hours on systems that feel inefficient or menus that make simple tasks complicated. So keep that in mind while I discuss my initial impressions. This isn't a full review, it's more of a here's what's standing out to me right now kind of video. Once I actually finish the game, I'll probably have a completely different set of thoughts. But for now, let's dive into what's working, what's not, and why some of these design decisions matter more than you might think. Let's talk about pacing, because this is where Legends EA has been testing my patience in some unexpected ways. It took roughly 10 minutes of cutscenes and walking around before I got into my first Pokemon battle. 10 minutes! Now I get it, world building matters, and they want to establish the setting and story, but as someone who's looking forward to an open world RPG experience, I kind of expected to be catching or battling Pokemon a little bit sooner. From a design perspective, this violates a pretty fundamental principle, time to value. Users, or in this case players, need to experience the core loop of your product quickly, or they start questioning whether they're in the right place. While those first 10 minutes set the scene really well, not being able to actually play the core gameplay loop until 10 minutes in is really unfortunate. And it doesn't stop there. I'm about 4 hours in, and the trading wheels just came off. Well, sort of. The game still holds your hand with targeted questing even after that point, which creates the feeling that, you've never played a Pokemon game before. And look, I get it. The Pokemon Company wants to have a very wide appeal, including children who haven't played before. But there are ways to appeal to both audiences. There's no need to hold my hand and guide me through everything step by step. Half the fun of these open world RPGs are the exploration and learning new mechanics all on your own. It took around 35 minutes to reach the first proper wild area, the part of the game that should feel like freedom and exploration. That's a long time to wait for what's arguably the most exciting part of a Legends game. Not to mention that even in these wild areas, there's hardly any Pokemon variation or size to them. The first Legends Arceus game had vast expansive areas, and this has a small park next to some buildings. I imagine this will get better with time. They want to take their time introducing the player to these wild areas, but for now it's just, I wish they were a little bit bigger. On top of that, battle zones didn't unlock until over an hour in, and even at the 2-hour mark, I felt like I'd barely accomplished anything meaningful. When you have limited time to play, that's a real problem. It's not about being impatient, it's about the cognitive load and player investment. Every minute a game spends withholding its core mechanics is a minute where the player's excitement deflates a little more. There's a balance between teaching and trusting, and right now ZA feels like it's leaning too heavily on the former. I want to experience the game, not be slowly introduced to it like I'm learning enterprise software at a corporate onboarding session. And quick side tangent, even at my latest job, onboarding, I felt like I had more freedom than this. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some more positive things Legends EA has done right, like the core battle mechanics. This is where Legends EA does some genuinely interesting things, and I'm mostly here for it. The free movement during battles is fantastic. You're not just standing there watching your Pokemon fight, you're actively dodging, repositioning, and staying alert because stray moves can actually hit you. It creates this layer of engagement that makes every battle feel more dynamic. Honestly, I'm not even entirely sure what happens if I get hit too many times. I assume I would lose the battle. The game hasn't explicitly spelled that out to me yet, which is a little frustrating from a feedback clarity standpoint. When you introduce a mechanic where the player can take damage, you need to communicate the stakes clearly. What's the threshold? What's the consequence? Right now, I'm just dodging on instinct without really understanding the risk-reward calculation, which feels like a missed opportunity for transparent systems design. The timer on individual moves are a stroke of genius though. It adds a rhythm to the battle that keeps you thinking ahead, timing your attacks, managing cooldowns, and moving your Pokemon around the field while you wait. It's engaging in a way that turn-based combat just isn't. You're not passively selecting options from a menu, you're actively orchestrating a fight. And can we talk about how moves like Dig are actually useful now? In mainline games, Dig was basically a waste of a turn. Here, with real-time movement and positioning, it becomes a tactical tool. That's smart design, taking something that felt like a gimmick and making it functional with the new system. That said, switching between Pokemon while trying to move around is extremely clunky. I get there's a lot happening on screen, but when you're in the middle of dodging an attack and you need to swap out your Pokemon, the interface doesn't make it smooth. How am I supposed to continue moving while also pressing the same buttons on the left-hand controller to switch Pokemon? From my perspective, context switching needs to be seamless, especially in high-pressure moments. Right now, it feels like the input flow wasn't fully optimized for the chaos of real-time battles. Maybe it's a controller layout issue, or maybe the menu just needs to be more accessible during movement. But either way, it breaks the flow when you're trying to stay tactical and reactive at the same time. Overall, though, the real-time nature of these battles is refreshing. It's a bold departure from the traditional formula, and it works because it respects the player's agency. You're not waiting for animations to finish or mashing through dialogue boxes. You are in it, making split-second decisions. That's the kind of pacing I want more of. If they can tighten up the Pokemon switching and clarify the damage feedback, this system could be genuinely great. Continuing on the controls discussion, there are a few quirks outside of battling. Pressing the left stick to crouch and B to run might be how Pokemon games have always done it, but I've swapped those two in my head multiple times, probably because other games I play use different conventions. It's not a huge deal, but it does create a little friction when muscle memory from other games kicks in. From a usability standpoint, any action the player needs to perform frequently should be as frictionless as possible. This isn't, and I've also run into a few scaffolding puzzles that have left me genuinely confused. Maybe I'm missing a mechanic I haven't unlocked yet, or maybe I'm just being dense. It's unclear. That ambiguity is a little frustrating because I don't know if I should keep trying or just move on and come back later. Better signaling around progression-gated content would help me a little bit there. If something requires a future ability, just tell me. Don't let me waste my time wondering if I'm solving it wrong or if I'm not supposed to solve it yet. Now, on to aesthetics. This is where Legends EA really shines for me. The overall look and feel is phenomenal. There was something about Legends Arceus that just felt empty. Like you were wandering around a tech demo instead of a living world. ZA doesn't seem to have that problem so far. The city feels alive, there are people moving around, environmental details that make spaces feel inhabited, and an energy that makes exploration actually enjoyable. It's not just about graphical fidelity, it's about creating a sense of place. And from a design perspective, that's huge. ZA nails the atmosphere in a way Arceus struggled with. One key component to the reason it feels this way for me is that Arceus sometimes had like dead zones where no background music would play. In this grand city of Lumiose, there hasn't been a single zone where I felt that distinct lack of atmosphere. One quick note I'll make though is that there still isn't voice acting. In the largest gaming franchise in the world, it's severely missed, and I'll just leave it at that. Now, are there imperfections? Absolutely. Some buildings have these weirdly flat, low-res textures for windows or architectural details that look like they were slapped on in post, but it's barely noticeable unless you're actively looking for it. In motion, when you're exploring and engaged with the world, those little shortcuts don't break immersion. Same goes for character models being reused throughout the city. It's a common problem in games that try to populate dense urban environments, and while I noticed it, it didn't bother me. These are the kinds of trade-offs you make when you're prioritizing performance and scope over hyper-detailed uniqueness of every NPC. The UI design itself is sleek and clean, it's unobtrusive, which is exactly what you want. Good UI shouldn't constantly remind you that it exists, it should fade into the background and let you focus on the game. ZA does that well. Menus are easy to parse, information is organized logically, and I haven't encountered any glaring bugs or visual glitches yet. That might sound like a low bar, but we've all played games where the UI feels like it's actively fighting you. This one doesn't, and it works. That's a win. Textures across the board are solid and fit the aesthetic. Everything feels cohesive, like the art direction had a clear vision and stuck to it. There's a consistency to the visual language that makes the world feel intentional rather than cobbled together. And honestly, it just feels good to walk around. That's harder to quantify, but it matters. When movement feels smooth and the world feels responsive, exploration becomes fun instead of a chore. And finally, we get to shop for clothes again. I cannot believe that they basically removed this feature in recent games. Customization is such a core part of player expression, and stripping it out felt like a baffling step backwards. Let me dress my character. Give me options. Give me variety. This is basic stuff, and I'm so glad it's back. If anything, I want more of it. More outfits, more styles, more ways to make my trainer feel like mine. Overall, the aesthetics are strong. There are minor rough edges, but nothing that actually tanks my experience. The game looks good, feels good to play, and creates a world I actually want to spend more time in. That's the foundation everything else builds on, and ZA gets it right. So where does that leave us? Look, I'm only a few hours into Legend ZA, and these are very much my early impressions. Some of this might age like milk once I get deeper into the game. Maybe the pacing picks up, maybe those scaffolding puzzles will make sense. Maybe I'll finally figure out what happens when I get hit too many times. Who knows? But here's what I do know right now. The game has solid foundation. The world feels alive in a way Arceus didn't quite nail. The battle system is engaging and fresh, even if switching Pokemon mid-fight could use some work. And the UI is clean and functional, which deserves a little bit more credit than I get. And yeah, the pacing is slow. It's painfully slow at times. But I'm holding out hope that it's just front-loaded tutorialization and things will open up as I progress. As someone who doesn't have endless hours to sink into games, I'm hyper aware of how my time is being spent. And right now, ZA is walking a fine line between respecting that time and making me wait for the good stuff. I want to be exploring, battling, and customizing my character, not sitting through extended tutorials for mechanics I already understand. But I'm still playing, and I'm still enjoying it, frustrations and all. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Once I finish the game, I'll probably have a completely different set of thoughts. Maybe I'll love it, maybe I'll have more critiques. Either way, I'll be back with a full breakdown. If you've been playing ZA, let me know how you're feeling about it so far. Are the pacing issues bothering you, or am I just impatient? Do you love the real-time battles as much as I do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what's landing for other people. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.